This is the third video for Learning Unit 3, Chapter 6. Remember, I explained that the success of a product depends on the quality of the decisions made about the product. In this video, we will look at the decisions related to new product development, new product adoption, and the product life cycle. We begin with decisions related to designing new products. There are different types of new products. Products that are new to the world. These are inventions such as an aqua bike, a bike that allows you to cycle on water. Products that are new to the marketer, which are products that exist but made with additional features to differentiate the product from competitors. So for example, the concept of a stylus already exists. However, the iPencil is a new product for Apple. Repositioned products are products that were taken off the market and then revamped and brought back after some time. And finally, line extensions and product improvements can also count as product development. We now take a look at the process to follow in developing new products. It starts with sourcing ideas, and it's important to note that ideas can come from different sources. Then the marketer would need to screen the ideas to select the one that is the best fit for the success of the company. The marketers need to test the ideas on prospective consumers, and if there appears to be a good demand for the product, the company can then proceed to business analysis, such as, the company can then proceed to a business analysis and answer questions such as, what will this cost? Do we have the resources and skills? And if not, can we get it? How much profit is this going to make for the business? And what risks are involved? After this analysis, if the idea turns out to be profitable and possible to make, then the company will proceed to making up a mock product, which is also known as a prototype. Once the prototype is ready, it will be tested with the consumer. This phase is also known as test marketing, which is essentially a small-scale launch. Thereafter, if successful, it will be launched in full scale, in other words, officially, and this is known as commercialized. Over time, the performance of the product will be reviewed and assessed. These are the steps of the new product development process. Let's use an example from Apple to demonstrate this process. There were rumors at one stage that Apple was looking at making self-driven cars. However, more recently the rumors changed, and allegedly Apple is shifting the focus from building the actual car to building the software for self-driven cars. If you take a closer look at the picture on the screen, you will see the self-driving equipment installed on the car. Allegedly, this is a blogger that claims that they witnessed Apple testing out the software. It is not confirmed that this car did in fact belong to Apple. However, bloggers seem to claim that it does. If this is in fact true, it would be a good example of the first 3 steps of the new product development process, where they, as in Apple, would have had the idea of a self-driven car. However, after screening the product and testing the idea with a business analysis to test the feasibility of the idea, they probably decided that it will be easier for the company or more feasible for the company to just look at the software instead of the car itself. Once again, if this is all true, we may, in time, see this prototype making it into full commercialization. So it's just something to watch out for. We now move on to the new product adoption process. We won't be discussing the adoption process as such because this was already covered in chapter 3, but we're going to focus on the categories of adopters. The adoption process itself refers to the mental processing through which an individual moves from hearing about an innovation through its final adoption. There are 5 categories of adopters. The first would be innovators who are venturesome and willing to try new ideas and take on risks that come with it. Then we have early adopters who are guided by respect and are opinion leaders in their communities and who adopt ideas easily but carefully. Early majority would be groups of people that are very deliberate and adopt new ideas before the average person, but not necessarily before the opinion leaders. The late majority, in contrast, tend to be very skeptical of new products and adopts an innovation only after the majority of the people have tried it. And finally, laggards who are tradition bound. They are suspicious of change and adopt to an innovation only when they have to. So in short, the rate at which products are adopted depend on how easy it is to use, especially if it needs to be used with other products at the same time. It also depends on to what extent it can be tried out before use. You can read more about these characteristics on page 206 of the textbook, but the content is summarized here on the slide. The final section is to look at the product life cycle, which teaches us how the product changes or adapts in order for it to survive in the long run. The life of the product depends on the marketer making the right decisions at the right time. Imagine if a mother started to feed a piece of steak to a newborn baby, or if a 12-year-old was still drinking bottled milk. Neither of these would be good for the health or survival of the human being. It's the same for a product. Let's take a closer look at what each stage of the product's life would entail. The 4 phases of the product life cycle include introductory phase, growth phase, maturity phase, and the decline phase. Each phase of the cycle has a different sales and profit curve. In the introduction stage, sales are low because customers are not yet aware of the product and costs are always higher at the outset due to everything being new, to put it simply. Therefore, profits are also low. But over time, as the company spends time and money on advertising and promotions, sales will start to increase, and this is then known as the growth phase, as mentioned. Eventually, after time, the market is then saturated, and sales start to level off in the maturity phase as the business is relying on the same customers and their brand loyalty to survive. If for any reason the company starts to lose customers, then the product will go into the decline phase where sales and profit starts to decline. There are different shapes of the product life cycle for different business contexts. I want you to pause the video at this point and read about these on page 210 and 211 of the textbook. Thereafter, come back to this slide and see if you can figure out why I placed these logos in these categories. You can also test if you agree with my placement of these logos. This will help you to better understand the different kinds of product life cycles. Finally, we take a look at how the marketing strategy changes as the product gets older. Initially, in the introduction phase, the demand is low and therefore advertising has to focus on informing consumers about the product and creating awareness. There are different pricing strategies that the marketer can choose from, and these are discussed in more detail in Chapter 8. The product at this stage is not sold at all possible locations. Distribution is therefore said to be exclusive. However, as demand increases in the growth phase, distribution will increase and small price adjustments may be necessary to stimulate further demand. As consumers become more aware of the product and have been using the product over time, the nature of advertising will then change to reminder advertising or even persuasive advertising as more competitors feature. Over the time and going into the mature phase of the product life cycle, the product is likely to be sold at more outlets, which is called intensive distribution. And depending on the competitive nature, this may need product modifications and improvements. If the company begins to lose customers, then the company may need to look at withdrawing some products or selling off parts of the business or withdrawing completely. This now brings us to the end of Learning Unit 3. Remember to complete your notes template and prepare adequately for your live sessions with your lecturer.